Stephanie White did what almost no coach dares to do. She shattered the silence. After a brutal semifinal against the Las Vegas Aces, she stepped into the press room with frustration burning through her voice. Her words weren't vague hints or carefully coded phrases. They were a direct strike, a -31 free throw discrepancy. Numbers don't lie, and these numbers scream corruption. Disrespect, she called it. That single word cut across the basketball world like a blade, a raw accusation against referees who seemed to hold more power than the athletes fighting on the hardwood. The WNBA playoffs were supposed to be about competition, about resilience, about the kind of performances that inspire generations. But instead, they became a stage for suspicion. Stephanie White wasn't just venting after a loss. She was demanding an investigation into whether referees had rigged the games against Indiana. Fans at home were left stunned, glued to their screens as foul after foul tilted momentum. This wasn't just a basketball storyline. This was a trial about integrity, and the verdict would decide the future of the league itself. Coaches know the cost of speaking out against referees. The fines, the suspensions, the backlash. But Stephanie White wasn't thinking about herself. She was thinking about her players, about fans who invest their hearts into every possession, about the foundation of competition itself. Her demand wasn't about one series. It was about the WNBA's soul. If people began to believe games weren't determined by talent but by whistles, then everything the league had built, its credibility, its growth, its future, would collapse. This was no ordinary press conference. This was an act of defiance. The backlash was immediate. Social media lit up with outrage, dissecting every questionable whistle from the series. Fans replayed clips on an endless loop. Phantom fouls called on Indiana, blatant hacks against Fever players left ignored, challenges dismissed without explanation. The footage was undeniable. Neutral fans, rival supporters, even casual viewers who had no stake in the series began calling it what it looked like: rigged. In a league desperate to build legitimacy, this kind of universal agreement wasn't just unusual, it was catastrophic. Stephanie White had sparked a wildfire of suspicion. What separated this controversy from others wasn't just the officiating. It was the unity of the outrage. Normally, debates in sports fall along predictable lines. Team loyalties, fan rivalries, home court bias. But not this time, across the basketball community. People agreed something felt deeply wrong. One viral post summed it up perfectly. "I don't even like Indiana, but this officiating is disgraceful." That kind of honesty cut through fan tribalism. The problem wasn't about wins or losses anymore. It was about whether the WNBA could still be trusted to deliver a fair and honest competition. By Game 3, whispers of doubt had exploded into roars of anger. Fans who had tuned in for highlight-worthy performances were instead treated to a contest drowned in whistles. Every foul carried a weight heavier than the last. Every non-call was seen as stolen momentum. The semifinal, meant to showcase the very best of women's basketball, had turned into something darker, a courtroom where the referees, not the athletes, stood on trial. Fans were no longer watching just a game. They were watching the unraveling of trust, the collapse of something sacred. Indiana Fever fans felt robbed, stripped of a fair fight, and cheated out of seeing their team's hard work respected. For Las Vegas Aces fans, even victory came with a shadow. Every basket, every defensive stop, every final score was accompanied by doubt, tainted by whispers that maybe, just maybe, the scales hadn't been balanced. This wasn't just about which team advanced. It was about legitimacy. What good is a championship if it feels predetermined by referees? The integrity of the playoffs had become the question on every fan's lips. Amid the storm of controversy, the true heroes of the court were overshadowed. Lexie Hull played through injury with an unshakable spirit, hitting clutch shots and hustling relentlessly even as her body begged for rest. Aaliyah Boston, Indiana's defensive anchor, delivered a masterclass against reigning MVP Iowa Wilson, forcing one of Wilson's worst shooting nights. These performances should have been remembered as defining moments of the playoffs. Instead, they were buried under the suffocating weight of officiating debates. Courage, brilliance, and grit were stolen from the spotlight, replaced by the echo of relentless whistles. Momentum is everything in basketball, and in this series, it felt like momentum had been hijacked. Calls tightened around Indiana's every move while Las Vegas played with what looked like freedom. Stars in Aces uniforms seemed shielded from whistles, while Fever players were suffocated by fouls that ranged from questionable to absurd. Fans watching felt robbed of a natural contest, of the organic flow that makes basketball beautiful. Instead of being remembered for talent and strategy, the semifinals were remembered for suspicion, doubt, and the growing belief that the games weren't being allowed to breathe. And this wasn't an isolated storm. The WNBA has battled whispers about officiating for years. Players, coaches, and fans have long grumbled about inconsistency and bias. This season, it finally boiled over. Earlier in the year, a Mystics-Lynx clash ignited fury when rookie Sonia Citron absorbed clear contact, only for the referees to overturn an obvious foul after replay review. Outrage spread across social media. Fans felt mocked, betrayed, humiliated by officials who seemed blind to reality. That moment, like many others, became part of a pattern where officiating overshadowed the very athletes it was meant to protect. The silence from the league only made things worse. Fans demanded answers. Analysts begged for accountability. Coaches and players pleaded for consistency. Yet the WNBA's response was the same. Nothing. That silence wasn't neutral. It was damning. Every moment, without explanation, fueled speculation. Were certain stars being protected? Were certain teams being favored? In the absence of transparency, suspicion thrived. Fans filled the void with their own conclusions, and those conclusions weren't kind. They didn't see mistakes. They saw corruption. And the league's refusal to address it became an indictment of its priorities. The WNBA is at a crossroads. For years, it has fought tooth and nail for attention, fighting for relevance in a crowded sports market. And now, with Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Aaliyah Boston, and a new generation of stars, the league is finally breaking through. Ratings are surging. Arenas are filling. The league is standing on the edge of true transformation. But scandals like this could derail everything. Because no amount of marketing, no highlight reel, no star power can save a league if its fans don't believe the games are fair. Trust, once broken, is almost impossible to rebuild. Stephanie White's words weren't just about one game. They were about the future. She questioned not just the officiating, but what those calls represented. Did the league value fairness? Or did it value manufactured narratives and protected stars? Her demand for an investigation wasn't just a plea for justice for the Fever. It was a challenge to the WNBA itself. Prove to the fans, the players, and the world that you still stand for integrity. Or admit that whispers of corruption aren't whispers anymore. They're truth screaming across every arena. The Fever's young roster, full of promise and resilience, carried the weight of that question. For Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Lexi Hull, and others, every whistle wasn't just a foul. It was a roadblock to legitimacy. These players weren't just fighting opponents. They were fighting invisible forces outside the lines. To pour sweat and heart into every possession, only to be undermined by referees, was a betrayal that cut deeper than any loss. It wasn't about scoreboards anymore. It was about respect. And when athletes don't feel respected, when fans don't feel respected, leagues crumble. This is the WNBA's golden moment. Growth is real. Attention is finally here. But with growth comes scrutiny, and scrutiny demands accountability. Allegations of favoritism and corruption don't just threaten a playoff series. They threaten everything the league has built. Because fans don't invest in sports for predictability. They invest for authenticity, for the unpredictability of competition, for the belief that anything can happen. That belief is fragile, and right now it's under siege. The question is whether the WNBA will protect it or allow the cracks of doubt to turn into fractures that collapse the entire foundation. The stakes could not be higher. Scripted outcomes belong in wrestling, not basketball. Yet that's exactly what fans are whispering now, that the drama of the court is being shaped by referees, not players. Once spoken, those suspicions are hard to silence. Once planted, that seed of doubt grows quickly, and if the WNBA doesn't address it head-on, this could become its defining legacy. Not growth, not transformation, but scandal, corruption, a league that couldn't protect its most sacred value, the fairness of competition. That is a storm now hanging over every game, every whistle, every possession. And yet, there's opportunity in crisis. If the WNBA faces this moment with courage, if it confronts officiating issues with transparency, if it restores trust, then this could be remembered not as the league's downfall, but as its turning point. Fans want accountability. Players want fairness. Coaches want consistency. Deliver those, and the WNBA could emerge stronger than ever. But mishandle it, bury it, dismiss it, and the league risks alienating the very audiences fought so hard to win. This is the moment that will decide whether the WNBA rises or stumbles. So here we are. The semifinals may be over, but the story is far from finished. Stephanie White's words still echo: disrespect, investigation, integrity. The feverish fight may have ended on the scoreboard, but it has ignited something far bigger, a debate about the soul of the WNBA itself. Fans, players, analysts, and coaches are united in one demand: enough is enough. The league stands at a fork in the road. It can choose silence, or it can choose accountability. And the path it takes will decide whether this is the dawn of greatness or the beginning of collapse.